Welcome to Top Animal Zone.
Imagine living your whole life and forgetting most of it every few seconds. In the vast intelligence of the animal kingdom, not every creature is a genius. While some animals can remember migration routes across continents, others can't even remember what they were doing 2 seconds ago. Welcome to Top Animal Zone. Today, we're venturing into the strange, surprising world of nature's most forgetful minds, where instinct replaces memory and survival depends on something far deeper than recall. These are the top 10 animals with the worst memory. Let's begin the countdown. Top 1. Chimpanzees. While this list is in no particular order, we begin with one of the most fascinating and paradoxical creatures in the animal kingdom, the chimpanzee. At first glance, it might seem odd to include chimpanzees in a lineup of forgetful animals. After all, they're widely recognized for their high intelligence, advanced problem-solving skills, and rich emotional lives. In fact, chimpanzees share nearly 98.7% of their DNA with humans, making them our closest living relatives. But here's the surprising twist. Despite their overall brain power, chimpanzees have relatively poor short-term memory. Studies have shown that their short-term memory span averages around 20 seconds, meaning they can quickly forget visual cues, object locations, or minor interactions unless the information is reinforced or connected to a learned pattern. However, this doesn't mean chimpanzees are mentally deficient. Far from it. While their working memory may be brief in duration, it can be remarkably sharp in the moment. Chimpanzees also thrive in long-term social memory, remembering alliances, friendships, and even betrayals within their complex communities. They use facial recognition, vocal cues, and body language to navigate intricate hierarchies and emotional bonds that can last a lifetime. So while a chimpanzee may forget what it just saw a few seconds ago, it will never forget a face or a friend. Top 2 bees. Coming in next are creatures you probably see buzzing around flowers. And yet they hold some of the most surprising secrets in the insect world. Bees. Bees are often cited among the most forgetful animals, with some sources suggesting they may forget things in as little as 2.5 seconds. That sounds like a serious attention deficit, but as with many animals, their memory just works differently. To understand bee memory, we need to separate short-term recall from specialized learning. Yes, bees have a very limited short-term memory, especially when it comes to non-essential information. For example, if a bee encounters a neutral object or a flower with no nectar, it's likely to forget it almost instantly. However, when rewards like nectar or pollen are involved, bees become surprisingly focused and consistent. Research has shown that bees can remember the location of flowers, the color and pattern of petals, and even the timing of when flowers refill their nectar, often returning to the same spots at the same time each day. This form of associative memory is highly efficient and completely food-driven. Bees also use a complex form of communication known as the waggle dance, where they relay information about the direction and distance of a food source to others in the hive. This means not only do individual bees remember, they help others remember too. Bees aren't exactly forgetful. They're just selective, filtering out irrelevant data and focusing entirely on what matters most: food and survival. Top 3 hamsters. Blink, and a hamster might have already forgotten what it was doing. These tiny, wide-eyed creatures may look like they're full of curiosity and intent, but behind that twitching nose lies one of nature's most fleeting memories. Research suggests that a hamster's short-term memory lasts only about 2 to 3 seconds, barely enough time to process a thought before it vanishes like a puff of dust in a tunnel. Yet here's the paradox. Hamsters are not stupid. Despite their notoriously short attention spans, hamsters are able to remember key information when it matters most, particularly when food, safety, or routine is involved. In the wild, a hamster must remember the exact path back to its underground burrow, recall where its hidden seeds, and recognize areas marked by predators or danger. These aren't random instincts. They're bursts of long-term memory, carefully stored and triggered only when needed. As pets, hamsters quickly learn the sounds of their owner's footsteps. the scent of familiar hands, and the daily rhythm of feeding time. They may forget where they put a snack 2 seconds ago, but they'll remember the location of their food bowl and who usually fills it. They can even navigate mazes, solve simple puzzles, and recognize basic environmental patterns. In some cases, they're trained to perform small tricks using food-based motivation. However, unlike dogs or primates, hamsters don't retain abstract concepts well. Their intelligence is hardwired for survival, not for complex problem-solving. Top 4th seals. Imagine having the intelligence to mimic a human voice, yet forgetting what you were doing just 18 seconds ago. That's the strange mental world of seals. Sleek, social, and smarter than most people realize. These marine mammals are masters of survival in freezing waters and shifting tides. They navigate complex coastlines, bond in noisy colonies, and communicate with a vocabulary of grunts, growls, and barks. Some seals can even be trained to speak like humans, a talent that stunned scientists when a harbor seal named Hoover began imitating English with a thick New England accent. So how do such intelligent animals end up on a list of the most forgetful creatures? The answer lies in how their memory works. According to a study from the University of Southern Denmark, seals have very limited short-term memory, around 18 seconds on average. That means they might forget what just happened in their environment unless it's tied to something important, like food or danger. But this isn't a flaw, it's efficiency. In the unpredictable, often chaotic world of the ocean, not every moment deserves to be remembered. Seals seem to use their brains like filters. They forget the unimportant to make space for what matters most. And when it comes to long-term memory, seals shine. They remember hunting grounds, migration paths, and the unique cries of their pups, even in a sea of noise and movement. Top 5 snakes. If you ever find yourself face-to-face with an angry snake and manage to escape, here's some oddly reassuring news. It probably won't remember you. Despite being iconic symbols of danger and cunning, snakes are surprisingly forgetful creatures, especially when it comes to short-term memory. In fact, many herpetologists believe that snakes have minimal memory capacity altogether, relying far more on instinct than conscious thought or learned behavior. Snakes are not social animals. They don't form bonds, recognize family members, or return to familiar individuals. Their world is driven entirely by survival cues: heat, vibration, scent, and movement. While snakes have been shown to recognize and follow chemical trails, such as those left by prey or potential mates, they likely do not form lasting associations with those scents. Once a stimulus disappears from their immediate environment, so does the relevance and the memory. In other words, a snake may detect your presence through body heat or pheromones, but once you're out of range, you cease to exist in its mental universe. Top 6 turkeys. Turkeys are considered among the most forgetful animals on Earth. Their short-term memory is extremely limited, and they often fail to retain even basic spatial or survival-related information. Observers have noted strange, almost comical behavior, such as turkeys wandering back into areas where they had just encountered predators or danger, seemingly unaware of the risk. This lack of recall doesn't just affect wild turkeys. Domesticated turkeys, bred for size and meat production, are even more cognitively limited due to generations of selective breeding that favored physical traits over intelligence. Turkeys possess excellent eyesight and highly sensitive hearing. Their eyes are positioned on the sides of their heads, giving them a broad field of view, nearly 270 degrees, and they can detect even subtle movement from long distances. Their hearing is equally sharp, allowing them to pick up on threats or the calls of other turkeys from far away. These two senses are their main tools for survival in the wild. While the turkey might impress you with its brilliant plumage or thunderous gobble, its brain is mostly tuned to the moment. When it comes to remembering what just happened, or who you are, turkeys tend to hit the reset button every few steps. Top 7. Ostriches. Towering at over 9 feet tall with thunderous legs and eyes like polished marbles, ostriches are among the most recognizable birds on the planet. Their presence is unforgettable, But ironically, they're some of the most forgetful creatures alive. With a short-term memory span of roughly 10 seconds, ostriches can quite literally forget what they were doing moments ago. In a world where predators like lions and cheetahs roam, that's a dangerously short attention span. An ostrich may spot a threat, panic briefly, and then, just seconds later, forget that it was even in danger. This lapse in memory is tied to their limited brain power. Despite their enormous bodies, ostriches have brains smaller than a walnut, a mere 40 grams on average. For comparison, each of their eyes is larger than their brain, making them one of the few animals where the eyes literally overpower the mind. And yet, evolution gave them other tools for survival. What ostriches lack in memory and smarts, they make up for in speed and size. They are the fastest two-legged animal on land, capable of sprinting at up to 70 kilometers per hour, 43 miles per hour, and sustaining high speeds over long distances. Their powerful legs not only allow them to flee danger quickly, but also to deliver bone-crushing kicks that can injure, or even kill, a predator. Their enormous eyes, measuring up to 5 centimeters, 2 inches across, provide them with exceptional long-distance vision, helping them spot threats from afar. Unfortunately, due to their poor memory, spotting isn't always followed by smart decision-making. Top 8 giraffes. Giraffes move through the grasslands like living statues, all grace, height, and calm. But beneath that serene exterior lies a surprisingly limited cognitive world. They don't dwell on the past. They don't anticipate the future. Everything they process happens in a narrow window of now. Their short-term memory fades rapidly, often within half a minute. Visual cues, distant sounds, even immediate threats, all are quickly lost if not acted upon. Their behavior isn't driven by memory, but by reflex and rhythm. The giraffe's brain is small, modest in function, and wired for balance and basic pattern recognition. Emotional learning, spatial planning, social nuance, these are not its strengths. What it doesn't need to remember, it simply doesn't. That said, giraffes aren't reckless. Their elevated vantage point gives them time to react. They respond to changes in the herd, shifts in the wind, sudden motion in the grass. These responses are instinctual, not intellectual. They remember just enough to eat, to flee, to raise their young. Nothing more. Top 9. Baboons. Top 9 baboons. In the dry savannas and rocky cliffs of Africa, baboons thrive in some of the most complex social systems in the animal kingdom. They form troops of dozens, sometimes over 100 individuals, ruled by hierarchy, alliances, and subtle emotional cues. Every interaction, a glance, a call, a gesture, carries weight. And yet, in the midst of all this complexity, baboons carry a strange contradiction. Brilliant long-term memory, but poor short-term recall. Studies have shown that baboons can recognize individual faces and voices for years, track social relationships within their groups, and remember previous conflicts or alliances. Their emotional intelligence is striking. They comfort the distressed groom allies and even mourn the dead. This level of memory and sensitivity allows them to navigate intricate social politics. But when it comes to immediate memory, holding on to fleeting information or recent changes, baboons often stumble. Their working memory is limited, making them prone to forget new instructions, rapid sequences, or short-lived stimuli unless reinforced repeatedly. Still, they don't let forgetfulness slow them down. Their lives revolve around social intelligence, not isolated memory feats. They remember who helped them, who betrayed them, and who holds power, not necessarily what object moved 2 seconds ago. In essence, baboons don't remember everything, only what matters. And in the wild, that's often the smartest strategy of all. Top 10 clownfish. Clownfish may be some of the most recognizable marine creatures on the planet, thanks to their vivid orange stripes and their unforgettable debut on the big screen. But, ironically, for a species made famous by a fish forgetting everything, there's a hint of truth behind the fiction. Clownfish have very limited short-term memory. Their brains are small, And while they're perfectly suited to survive in their coral reef homes, they're not built for complex cognition or long-term strategy. They may forget quickly, but they adapt well. Clownfish know how to maintain hierarchy within their small social groups with a strict dominant structure. The largest and most dominant becomes the female, while the others remain male. If she dies, the next in line transforms, a process based not on memory but biology. We often think of memory as power, the ability to recall, to analyze, to survive. But nature tells a different story. Some of its most fascinating creatures carry on with barely a memory of what just happened. And yet, they thrive. They love. They migrate. They defend. They live fully in the present moment, unburdened by yesterday, unafraid of tomorrow. Maybe, in the grand design of nature, it's a different kind of wisdom, the ability to let go. Thank you for joining us at Top Animal Zone. If you enjoyed this journey through nature's quirks and wonders, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the knowledge. Before you forget,